was kind of nervous getting up here, but then I realized I've seen most of you drunk and half naked, and so I didn't have to have that fantasy anymore. Coming back and talking about copy is difficult because at the end of the day, once you've said it all, what is there to go on about? I mean, I've told everybody how I write, but everybody just wants more. They're like, there's got to be another secret. There's got to be another tip he can give me, just one more tip. But, really at the end of the day, writing copy's pretty difficult and a pain in the ass, and something I regret taking on as a career choice. But here I am talking about it. And I was going to start this off with a bottle of Cristal. We were going to buy a bunch of them and give everyone a mimosa Cristal just to keep up that irreverent streak, but they were really anal about not letting you have stuff in here. So instead, the highlight of this presentation is afterward. I bought 10 bottles of $20 Prosecco, so don't get too crazy out there, kids. So what I'm going to do is I sat on a plane on the way here, and John's like, so you're speaking? I said, yeah, man, I'm speaking. He's like, what about? It's like, oh, yeah. So here's what we're going to talk about. I call these the rules for radical copywriting. It's like Saul Alinsky's rules for radicals, except instead of communism and anarchy, we're going to sell product. These are not exactly shortcuts to writing better, but they are the breakdown of how I approach writing. And it's very manual, labor-intensive, and unpleasant. It's I think I've told the story of David Ogilvy numerous times where he would kick his dog and shit, to write promos because he just would get manic and depressed and drunk and wild because he's like, the idea's not working, nothing's coming together the way it should. So I go through the same process, but then I have these. And yeah, they're difficult. As I was telling one of my friends a minute ago, promos are written before you actually put a word on paper. And so these rules are supposed to help you write that promo before you actually start picking up pens, or I don't know who writes with pens anymore. But so let's start with this one, because this one I rant a shit ton about to writers that I'm mentoring, to people who are trying to create launches, launch products, whatever. And that is where the ideas should come from, what the idea should be. The idea does not come from the copywriter. Copywriters are way too egotistical about this and kind of flog themselves with their genius. Copywriters are, as Gene Schwartz put it, the assemblers of ideas. You take all the information that is given to you and now you piece it together into something. The idea should come from the editor. Whoever you're writing a promotion for should be the root of that idea, because he's the one who has to speak it and he's the one who has to represent it. And your readers, your customers, are not idiots. If you're writing a tech promo for a guy who's only ever done commodities trading, chances are it's going to backfire because his background has no synchronicity with the story you're telling. It's all about synchronicity. People need to feel like things are in order. We always talk about rocking the boat and throwing out a crazy idea and being a rebel, but you can't jar the sales process. People are processing all this information in a stream. And so it all has to connect. That's rule one. Ideas should come from editors, and then the iteration of that idea comes from the copywriter. That's the job of the writer, is to take the information and reform in a way that's palatable for the audience. Number two, God, this is a big one. Err on the side of energy. Most of you people out there writing really suck. Just in terms of you have no energy. Your writing's very, as Adam was putting it, very limp, flaccid. He didn't say, he wasn't talking about you guys, he was talking about me earlier. But just write with more energy. Start off a promotion, and instead of mapping it out, don't even outline the fucking thing. Just start writing. And write fast and energetic. One of the best compliments I got is a friend said that reading my promo was like doing an 8-ball. Which, that's like cardiac arrest, so I guess whatever. But start your promos off with an intense amount of energy. Write short lines, single sentence paragraphs, and go. And have someone read it. And when someone reads that copy and they're like, man, this is really high energy, this moves at a good clip, you're going to sell a lot just from momentum. Try stop a fucking boulder coming downhill. Even a small rock gains enough momentum, and it's not going to be easy to stop. So just write that way. Write with energy, write with momentum. Instead of overthinking ideas, stop thinking. Just go. Go with your gut. Writing is not supposed to be intellectualized. It's supposed to be visceral. That's all the great writers in history, fiction or copy. They just appeal to emotions, which takes us into the next one. Well, no, it doesn't take us into the next one, but we'll just go into it anyway. Does the idea have longevity? When you're coming down to something, you're like, well, this is a great idea. Let's attack whatever, gold. I have this really cool gold investment. Well, does it have longevity? Does the idea carry a promotion? Because I can come up with hooks all fucking day. I can give you thousands of hooks in a minute for a promo. But do any of them carry through 30 pages? How many logical leaps do you have to make during the writing of the promotion for someone to arrive where you want them to be at a sales process? Because this ends up being an issue. Most people will just write a promotion and think, well, if I just convince them to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things, then they'll buy. It's like, I don't want someone to have to do 7 different things in order to buy. I want them to do one thing, and that's buy. All they need to do is believe me. So does your idea have longevity? Will it carry the promotion? Is it easy to grasp? Is it digestible? And this is something that you have to sit down and, before you begin writing, map it out. Write it. What's going to be the process? That takes us to the next rule. What do they have to believe to buy? Before someone makes any decision, it's like, what happens between the beginning and the end that they have to now swallow and consume and say that this is what I'm going to buy? I think it's Joe Schriefer at Agora Financial does the copyboarding process, which is very similar. He has like Post-it notes, and essentially you sit down and you write every objection someone's going to have, and you put it on Post-it notes, and then you organize those, and then you write promotions out from there. That's effective. I mean, I've tried it, but it's just too organized and conventional for me. And so I try to just do really wild shit, like write my notes, throw them away, rewrite them, kick the dog, etc. So how I approach it is I have it here in this notebook for a promotion I'm working with Connor. What are the different things that I have to answer before someone will buy? And just write them out like questions. What are they going to want to know about? Do they want to know more about this guy's background? What about his best trades? Where has he been? Why should they care? Why does this make sense? Who's investing in it? Why are they investing in it? What are the ramifications? How does this build out? And slowly what happens is you take this core idea and it grows like a tree. And the tree is made of questions that you have to answer for the client. And that's how you build a promotion. That's how you make sure that your idea has some longevity. That's how you make sure that it can carry. And that's how you make sure that it makes sense. Because most of the time, if someone has to believe, for example, on an economic theory, that these various aspects of debt are going to snowball, and those debts are going to cause this thing to explode, and when that explodes, this is going to topple over, and when that topples over, then cars are going to explode, and robots and shit, and then we will have the singularity. It's like, that's a lot of leaps. So no, don't have those leaps. And you'll figure that out as you're writing the questions, as you're figuring out the structure of your promo. You'll see how many leaps someone has to make, and then you just realize the idea sucks. And thank God, I don't have to read any more of those shitty promos. Dramatic demonstration is another rule. I'm actually going to revisit this one later, but it's a different version of demonstration. You have 3 main demonstrations you have to show in the copy. Demonstration 1 is the editor. Demonstration 2 is the product. Demonstration 3 is the idea. The editor demonstration is just showing their qualifications in a dramatic way. Not just the litany, the fucking resume where everyone's like, well, look at all my achievements. Look, I worked at Goldman Sachs. I did this. That's just a resume. It's just bullet points. One dramatic demonstration, however, is saying, in 2008, I took all my money out of the market. Everyone, Goldman Sachs, everyone, they all said I was an idiot. They said that things are going to go up from here. But I took it all out. I took my money to cash, and I made this huge return. That's a dramatic demonstration because it's a story. The idea demonstration is just saying, for example, if you're pitching a put selling product, for example, You want to show how easy it is. One of the ways I've been doing this is you can have someone record a video making the trade and then say, look, it took 10 seconds. 10 seconds and I made this trade. And you saw my account start at 0 and now I have 10,000 or whatever. Just an idea demonstration will carry a long way. Then the product demonstration is testimonials, proof of people having made success with the editor. Those are the 3 things. And you want dramatic ones. Again, these are not just like throwing them out there as a bullet point list. This is laying them out for people to understand and for them to consume, because those are going to be the takeaways, and that's what they're going to tell their friends about. That's how things resonate, because now it becomes part of the narrative that they're forever repeating to themselves. So 3 dramatic demonstrations: the product, the idea, the editor. You know what, we'll go into this one since it seems popular. Prove one thing 100 times. Instead of going on and trying to make multiple points, which occurs a lot, just take one idea and prove the hell out of it. That's it. It's really easy to sell products. People have overcomplicated the process dramatically. It's just take one thing and prove it. Show that it works anywhere. Show that it works for anyone. Show that it works anytime. Show that it works no matter what. You can be absolutely fucking retarded and still make this work. And that's how you demonstrate. That's how you prove. You show, hey, look, one of the best ways I always have guys I'm mentoring, right? It's like whenever you have a big trade that this editor executed before, now what I want you to do is find everyone who during that time said that he was wrong or said that that was a bad trade. So if you had a guy who invested in gold, now go find an article from Morningstar or anyone with credibility and show that they said gold was a bad investment. Now you're just proving things. You're just taking tons of proof, real proof, instead of saying stuff. A lot of copy is just people talking to themselves. Just prove things. Just give evidence. It's incredible. People can go to jail for giving evidence. You can sell products that way. Bulk and cut. This is something that Paul helped me put into the right terms, because before I called it the mental diarrhea phase, but now we'll call it bulking and cutting. This is probably just a personal thing, but whenever I write, I will overwrite and just put as much word on paper as I can, because the idea in your head sometimes is just not coming out the way it should. It's not forming, it's not executing, and you've got so much research, because if you've done this right, you have, I think the ratio is 80 pages of research for every 8 pages of copy almost. So when you take all that, when you have this much information, and now you're trying to get it onto paper in a cohesive way, it can just be chaos. It can just be stilted. It can go in a bunch of different directions. So for me, I've always found the solution is to just start writing. I'll just put as much on paper, and I'll write 10 pages of copy and realize, all right, I've got it out of the way. It's like clearing the clutter, emptying out the garage. Once you figure that out, then in there somewhere, the idea will emerge. You'll figure out this is the thing I'm going to write. And so that's when I'll throw it all away and cut it down into what it actually means. And then I'll write it, and then I'll throw it away, and I'll start over again. And then I'll throw that away. And we'll do this several times. So I take up a lot of RAM space. But just write more. And first off, you'll get better at writing because you're writing more. Second, you'll start noticing what a good idea looks like. So it'll solve the issue of longevity, because you'll realize, wow, this is a cool lead, but it doesn't go anywhere. The idea doesn't have anything to stand on. Oh, when in doubt, just promise people something they want. This should be self-explanatory. I've told John before that big ideas are for small thinkers. I'm pretty much tired of the phrase big ideas, and I'm tired of copywriters telling me that I'm just trying to find that big idea. It's like none of your ideas are big. None of your ideas, what's big is if, someone pushes a button in Washington and nukes someone. That's a big idea. But this is just a copy idea. You need a good idea, not a big one. And this is where it creates all these over-the-top verbose promos with massive amounts of economic theory and massive amounts of tangents. Just promise people something they want. If people want $10,000 a month in income, start your promo off saying, here's how you can make $10,000 a month in income. If people want a $5,000 stock trade, or if they want to make 5,000% on a stock, so I'm going to show you how to make 5,000% on a stock and then prove it. It's very simple. Again, selling is simple. We overcomplicate it because it's so simple that we just can't believe that that's all it takes. I mean, look at me. I'm just telling you guys things that you should all know anyway. I've come to realize a lot of these rules are just basically complaining at the audience. One of the rules here is qualify and quantify. This one I've kind of already gone into, but qualify and quantify is catchy, so we'll go into it again. So you want to show specifically what can be achieved and then show how it's achievable. This goes back to the whole prove something 100 ways, but now we're talking specificity. Now you're actually showing here's 1,000, one of the big things that we pushed when I was, with Banyan Hill is the performance guarantee. So, okay, you'll make $120,000 over the next year. That's our guarantee. Specific. Now we have to show how it's achievable. We have to quantify all these things. We qualify them. So that's where everything will circle in the promo around how true and achievable making $120,000 is. Simple. You just keep proving it. You just keep saying, man, look, we made $10,000 on that one trade. Could you imagine if we were doing these twice a month? God, incredible. The sums of wealth. God, again, just complaining. I really should have put slides up. Obfuscation and elevation. This is one I see quite a bit. And it's actually a sign of not having an idea or not having sorted your idea out, which is that you will just write with a lot of really big words and try and make things seem complicated. And you will say, this is a game changer, it's a landmark, watershed, windfalls. I mean, these words will just start appearing a lot within the lead and no actual context to any of it. There's no specificity. And it's just I'm trying to remember the term, but it's, big idea language is what we'll call it, which is whenever you're so obsessed with your idea looking big, that now you're just overwriting but not saying anything. Where was I going with this? Sorry, I'm processing everything. This is why John invites me here. He needs somebody to make the other guys look good. Just be more specific and clear, and if your writing does not have that sense where someone can look at it and immediately understand what you're talking about, if someone doesn't have an immediate takeaway when they read your writing, the lead, any part of it, if they can't grasp it immediately, then you're obfuscating. There should be no point in the promo where somebody is I have really no idea what's going on here. There's just a lot of writing on the page. If your promo gets to 10,000 words, you're probably overwriting. I mean, they can be that way. They can get to 10,000 words, but do you think your writing is good enough for 10,000 words? Do you think you couldn't have said it in 7,500 words? Because 10,000 words is over an hour long. Do you think someone's going to sit there for an hour while you rant, talk about nonsense? I mean, I have you guys, but just look over what you're writing and think, man, does this make sense? Does it have any depth? Is it specific? Is it quantifiable? Does it qualify anything? Is it strategically placed here to do anything? Because if it's not, then just delete it and move on. Oh, opening a present. I don't know if anyone saw this promo from Stansbury many years ago, but I think it was I think the headline was "Someone Stole My Bacon" or "Where's the Bacon" or something. It was some bacon thing, and it was getting an incredible amount of traction. People were opening, and it was very popular. But the promo just completely face-planted. The reason it face-planted is because the promo built up this initial first half that was all about preppers and survival. It had this idea of, there's going to be no milk, there's going to be no bread, there's going to be no bacon. But then the transition occurs in the copy where it's like, I'm kidding, it's all hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is going to mean that we're not going to have food or whatever. So this is what I call putting a toy soldier in a Ferrari box, because someone opens this thing up expecting one really awesome thing, and what they got is a toy soldier. So this is the danger of hook obsession, and not follow through on the idea and longevity of ideas. Because if you're writing this promo that's really hooky, but then what the actual thing waiting on the other end is completely off what they were looking for, then you've just put a small gift in a huge box, and now they're just pissed, and then they don't buy. And as we were discussing the other day, people show rebellion in your writing by just not paying attention to it anymore. So just don't. Make it simple. If you're promising an income strategy, don't suddenly say, well, we're actually scalping a lot with huge position sizes. Because then it's well, that's not exactly what I was looking for. This is also why put selling products have tremendous refund rates. Truly outrageous. 60, 70% on average. Adversarial language. This is one that we were just discussing the other day. There's this tendency of people in their writing to try and challenge the reader. And I always find that weird, the idea of challenging the reader, because the challenge is already implicit. You're trying to get them to give you money. So why would you want to amplify the feeling of being an adversary, of sitting across the table from each other, when what you want is to be construed as an advocate? Writing language that seems tough and aggressive towards a reader doesn't actually help you sell products. And I see this a lot, especially with smaller publishers, because I'm just going to come out swinging hard, show some edge, curse a lot. Angel Suarez copywriting. Instead, move around the table. This is an old sales tactic. Move around the table and sit next to them. Be on the same side. In Creativity Inc., Ed Catmull was talking about one of the big issues they had at Pixar initially was this really long table, from a movie, where it's there's one guy over here and his wife's over here, and they have to throw paper planes to send messages or whatever. He's and so there was this huge contentious atmosphere in Pixar for a while because people were separated by so much distance and nobody could communicate and there was no idea. And suddenly there was a separation of power where people felt they were on opposing sides. They changed that by making a square table. So now everybody was sitting side by side and everyone was sitting together. That's what your copy should be doing. It should be making them feel like they're sitting with you. This isn't your gift to them. This is an idea you're sharing with them. You're bringing them into the loop with you. Challenging the reader is just fucking stupid. They're rebelling, as we said. The rebellion of the reader is just not buying. So congratulations, you win. They're fighting with you now. Those are my rules. That's the rules I have. So if you guys want to ask questions, go ahead. It's very simple. Like I said, all copywriting is simple. It's overcomplicated by the people writing it because that's how we charge fees. So, questions, curiosities, commentary?
Someone finds some songs of your what?
All over the place. Banyan Hill, I write a lot for Banyan Hill. I'm sure John's got an archive that he keeps in the bathroom or something. But yeah, Banyan Hill, go ahead.
How's compliance and the need to be more compliant affecting copywriting?
Oof. Yeah. You're talking to the person who has got into tremendous fights and been the bane of 14 West. It's pretty terrible, especially when you write a promo that's here's the secrets of insiders. They really don't like that. Compliance is a double-edged sword. I hate compliance, and I would shoot most lawyers and people who are just working with lawyers. It's like a lineage thing. You just wipe it all out. But it's the Genghis Khan method. But compliance does have one benefit that actually causes you to challenge yourself on how you approach ideas, which I think it was Larry Fine who, when I was working with him in the copy chief capacity, I think 9 years ago, said, compliance will just make us better to a degree because now our ideas have to get sharper and more effective and more in tune with like the audience. I think that's fair. At Agora in particular, legal is horrific, and there are copywriters who have quit the company because of how terrible legal is there. But, as Clayton Makepeace once said, if there was no legal, our clients would all be rich and in jail. So I guess we have to take it. So yeah.
One thing on that, actually, it's a big issue, right, in the space right now, is that you're getting a lot of risk from people on Facebook and other people who decide what you can and can't say. It's not so much about just like the regulations, it's about policy risk for companies. And one of the things that I thought was fascinating was I talked to Mike Ward from Money Map, who's the publisher there, just 2 weeks ago. And he said, a lot of the editors and gurus and products that we have anymore are from these guys who they were somebody involved and connected and doing business 20 years ago. And they haven't done anything. And they have ideas now, but they're really difficult to sell. And so we have to get these really great copywriters who come up with ways to sell these guys because frankly, if you just describe who they are, that doesn't sell very well. And they did a promo where they did a cannabis investing promo with John Boehner, who was the Speaker of the House of Representatives in the U.S. And he had been the biggest opponent of cannabis legislation when he was in Congress. And when he got out, he's like, all this information that these staffers and lobbyists were giving me on one side was just not true. And he completely changed his perspective. And they got him to come on a webinar and actually talk about this, right, as part of the sales process. And he's like, you didn't need Angel or Jed or one of these ace-level copywriters to tell that story because it was real. And one of the trends in the space is that the more real you start to make the gurus and the products, the easier the compliance issues become because now you're actually saying something that's true, relevant, and is actually happening in the world versus I got this guy and we have to sell him and he doesn't have anything of a real substance to say that he's doing right now. So we got to come up with some crazy idea to find a way to sell him. And so I think that's probably the most relevant thing I've heard on a policy issue in the last 6 months in the space. Thank you.
Yeah, credibility is a big element with all that. This is kind of an ongoing issue is you only start coming up with kooky, zany ideas if your editor doesn't have any weight. Because generally, as we said at the beginning, ideas should emerge from editors. And so if they don't produce ideas for you, if they don't have anything that you can draw from, then you probably just need to fire that dude. Because then what's he actually doing? It's like if a copywriter's not writing and an editor's not editing, then, what's the point of them? They have to be a source of ideas. If they're not a source of ideas, if they're not at least giving you the seeds of an idea for a copywriter to help plant and grow, then just find a better editor. There's tons of them out there. There's all these dudes out there who have no money. They'll do anything for $1.
A lot of what you described, it seems quite applicable to an American audience. Have you had any experience of running promotions for the British audience? Is there anything you can share with us that sort of might help guide us in our quest to sell better to this market?
I don't have a lot of experience writing to English, the London market. I would just tote the same line every copywriter toes, which is that human emotions and motivations are pretty universal. But I know that there is a division of Agora in England that does pretty well. I don't know what the difference would be because they're still pretty heavily capitalized country.
The compliance is probably as bad or worse.
As I can see it being worse for sure. Yeah, I can imagine that. As far as how to approach it, it's one of those things I don't want to say anything definitive because I don't know the differences. Like, for example, languages, what appeals to the British market. I'd have to spend a few months reading copy and seeing the kind of sentiment of the market. But I would imagine that there's so much uniformity between the American markets and the British, at least, because we were one country at one point, that that it probably wouldn't be too hard to see. You know, I mean, I'm sure that nobody's investing in stocks because they want to get poor. So I think start from there, you know.
So I think, I mean, in terms of what you described, we're really talking about painting word pictures.
Yes, absolutely. Demonstration, as Adam was saying earlier, the demonstrable things are really effective. And that's all I like to do in copy is just demonstrate. It's like, what is that, Oric? I think it's Oric vacuums. Hands are in pockets. It's a bad cue. I think it was Oric vacuums had the whole demonstration where they sucked a bowling ball up with the vacuum. And they were like, look how powerful it is. We sucked a bowling ball up. It has nothing to do with mites or anything that clings to your carpet, but swear to God, it'll pull all the bowling balls out of it. So I would say you painting word pictures, demonstration, God. Promos will get shorter the more stuff you actually show because you're saying less and nobody really wants to hear you talk anyway, but they want you to prove an idea. So yeah, paint word pictures, demonstrate things. Start your promos by just figuring out all the things you're going to demonstrate and work backwards from there. You know, like I know before I write a promo, I know my questions I'm going to answer. I know how I'm going to answer them. Promos are written before you start writing. They're all in here. You just got to put them on paper or pixels.
So when a client comes to you with an idea, what's the one thing where you sit there in your hand and say, oh God, please don't let them ask me to do this for them? What's the one thing you hate that people ask you to do that you hate doing?
Come up with ideas that they have no background to make. Help them prove promises they have no credibility to be promising anybody. I hate when that happens. I hate when I'm brought something and someone says, well, I want a promo for some sort of promo. I don't know. I just want some promo, maybe, some trading thing. You know, it's like, well, have you ever traded? No. Okay. Well, now we're on the wrong foot. So that's what I hate. And it really infuriates me because just like I'm not saying I'm qualified to speak on, the difference between the English market and the American market, I don't like when people make products that they should not be making, and that's how they actually blow clients up, and that's how people lose tons of money. If you're an options trader, you probably should not be trading stocks, because I've seen dudes who are fantastic options traders absolutely detonate their accounts in fucking whenever they decide to mess with stocks. I've seen guys who are excellent futures traders, and then they're like, man, I think I'm going to dabble in stocks for a bit. And they realize that those leverage systems and the speed of the market are completely different. And then they lose all their money. They don't lose it because they're trading. They're giving recommendations. The people who actually are buying the products at home that have no money are the ones who lose what they have left. So, fuck them, right? So I would say that. I would say people trying to have me create promotions for things they're not qualified to talk about. Yeah, I get pretty frustrated about that, and I just won't accept it. And, with our company Rogue, one of the big things we start off with is getting to know the editors, learning about what their background is, learning what they're qualified to talk about, looking at their best gains, all that, because again, the idea should emerge from the editor. It shouldn't emerge from the copywriter. The copywriter should just polish it off. Nice pants, Brett.
Thanks, man. Where'd you get that jacket?
Budapest.
They sell men's clothes where you got that?
No. Sweet lingerie.
That's later.
Thought I'd spice this place up. Minesweeper. Oh yeah. Slam that Secco. Let's get that Pro Sec going, I guess. Remember, it's $20 a bottle. Be conservative about your drinking. Anyone? Anything? Going once, going twice, and thrice. It's over. Thanks, guys.